Welcome to our few minutes together on the Parsha. This Shabbos, we have the privilege of reading Parshas Miketz and also celebrating Shabbos Chanukah. We know the storyline, basically. Yosef, of course, told the Sar Mashkim and the Sar Ophim the interpretation of their dreams, which ultimately came true. He asked that the Sar Mashkim, the butler, the wine steward, remember him. And as last week's Parsha ended off, Vayishkachehu, he forgot him, whether it was on purpose, just forgot him, it wasn't important enough to him. And then time went by and Paro himself has dreams, and they are in need of interpretation that makes sense in order to be able to assuage the upset that pervaded Paro's mind. And the Sar Mashkim remembers Yosef, speaks about him in a most derogatory way, but ultimately Paro, because of his dire straits, takes Yosef out of the pit, brings him to the palace. He is, so to speak, cleaned up, made to look sharp, made sure that his garments were proper as one should be before a king. And he interprets the dreams to Paro's great satisfaction. And gives him the advice that there are 7 years of plenty coming to be followed by 7 years of famine. And it makes sense, therefore, that during the 7 years of plenty, he gather all the plenty that exists and prepare for the years of famine to come. And Paro says to him, it's clear that there's no person like you around, and you're the one who should be the leader of this endeavor to save not only Egypt, but all the world. And Yosef, of course, accepts the position. He sees the Yad Hashem, as he said to Paro himself, that Elokim Yana Eshlom Paro, it's God himself who can answer. It's Biladai, it's not from me. It comes from Hashem. And he is appointed to be the second in command to Pharaoh himself. And the Pasuk tells us that Paro gave him a name. And the Pasuk says that Vayikra Paro Shem Yosef Sofnas Paneach. He called Yosef's name Sofnas Paneach, a very obscure name. And as Rashi points out, it means Sofnas Paneach. He sees or reveals the hidden. He takes that which is hidden and reveals it. And Onkelos equally so translates that it means he reveals the hidden. The Hamek Dover takes the word Paneach, and he says it's made up of two separate words. It's made up of the word Pa, which is Pei Ayin, come from the word Hofa'ah, the kavod, an exalted, shining position, and nach, which means restful, a shining position that's restful. And he explains that Paro was astounded at the ability of Yosef to transfer himself from a lowly prison slave into being the viceroy in Egypt, and with aplomb, just seemed to go right into the position. And Paro understood that this particular position, therefore, was made for him, and that he himself was someone who was quite capable of sliding right into greatness despite the lowly position he was in. Isn't that a history of the Jewish people? That despite the fact that there are times where we are downtrodden, like at the time of Hanukkah, where we were under the heel of the Greeks, and we were sure, as far as the Greeks were concerned, that they were going to trample us and wipe us out, and we were so lowly, and people were afraid, and people went along, and many people even said, hey, look, when you're at the Greeks, do like the Greeks do. Let's become like them, the Hellenizers, who bought into the entire culture. And the Jews were so low and away from the source of what gives us our strength, until Matisyahu said, Mila Hashem Elai, who is to God, follow me. And how many could there have been? It was only a few. And yet these downtrodden few were able to bring about the great miracle of the victory over the Greeks, which is symbolized by the small few little drops of oil that ultimately burned so bright. Because it's in us. It may be hidden, and maybe it's dormant for a long period of time. But just as Yosef was able to transform himself in front of the eyes of Paro, who was so amazed at the transformation because he recognized that Sofnas Pa'aneach, inside Yosef was this kavod resting, this Pa'aneach was resting, and all it needed to do was to be brought out into the open. And so too with the Jewish people throughout the history of the world, and even today, when so many forces are arrayed against us. It seems that not only are the battle forces arrayed against us, but the media forces and the World United Nations forces. And yet we know that this inside of us is this glory, is this kingship, this exalted position, and it's just waiting to come out like the little drop of oil that burns so bright in the lights of Hanukkah. Sofnas Paneach, the name of Yosef, gives us a hint to what can happen when the Jews are in exile and ultimately can rise to the top. Have a wonderful Shabbos Hanukkah.